under the disguise of darkness, covered by the shadows of the dark forest. Slowly and silently she moved forward, nothing but her footprints left on the snow. Somewhere far in the distance she could see the glistening of the fire, and it's the promise of that warmth that moved her forward. She knew fires don't start themselves, so she had to be careful. She slithered amongst the trees like a snake, unseen, and standing behind the pine tree, she studied what was happening in front of her. The other two people were by the fire, and she watched them from the distance, waiting for them to go to bed. She lay down on the earth, feeling her belly melt in the snow, feeling the cold, moist soil. She was delighted. She knew it was springtime. This time it just came a bit late, and the snow was still out in some places, thick as it was in December. But she could sense the spring in the air. She knew instinctively that soon it all will melt, turning into streams and rivers before the blossom and the bloom arrives. Soon after the two-legged ones went to tents, she slowly moved towards the fire. She sat right by its edge, looking into familiar amber flames. She smiled and sighed. "What is it you seek?" asked the fire. "I can see there is a question in you, dear child." She nodded in response, and a tear dropped from her eye, making the fire hiss. "Oh, I see," said the fire. "A deep longing in your heart for the spring, for the bloom and the blossom, for the little ones, for the sun and the play. This winter has been so long," she said. "I'm afraid that my land is getting frozen over, and I went to seek the sun so I could bring it with me, so the life could return to my lands and my people. And you are the closest I see to the sun," she said with deep hope in her voice, and her whole being moved forward towards the fire. The fire crackled in response, and a few coals fell out to the side. "I see you had to take a long road," the fire said. "Your journey back will not be easy, dear one. But take that. Take those coals and bring them to your people in your land, and once you get back, plant them, and all shall be well then." She bowed to the fire for such a dear gift, and took the two coals in her mouth. They hissed, and she felt the heat touch her tongue and burn and blister. She flinched and took the long breath. "This is what I'm here for," she thought to herself, and turned away from the fire. She followed her own steps back, moving through the dark forest, and after a couple of days she finally made it back to her den, to her people. They all stood up when they saw her coming and ran up to her waving their tails. Some came close and licked her and barked and touched her, for they were so pleased to see the loved one come back. and they spotted 2 amber coals in her mouth, a bite of the sun. She brought some sun back with her. They followed her in procession until they reached the place they called home. She was exhausted, weakened, and yet so strong in her determination. She fell to the ground, barely moving her mouth, barely moving her head. She gently rolled to the right and dropped one of the coals next to her, and to the left, dropping another one. She pushed them deeper into the snow with her wet nose. And sure, the coals melted the snow and went all the way down, until soon they reached the earth, and the warmth made the land breathe in deeply and yawn and stretch, that it was time to awaken from the sleep. And all along, the other one sat above on the cold crust of snow, awaiting for it to melt and for the life to return to the land. She dared not move, for she knew it was her responsibility to simply be patient and trust. And her sisters and brothers gathered and sat with her. They howled to the moon through the dark night and through the grey days. And the howl was a prayer and hope for the sun to return and warm their lands, to breathe life back into their place. And the more time they spent there, the more they started to see that the ice and snow was melting, slowly but surely, turning into creeks and rivers, the promised sound of change, the sound of running water. And when the sun finally arrived, he saw the dedication of the one who went to find the fire. He saw her tired body upon the snow, and out of love he warmed her up, her bones, her nose, her tail, her feet. And so full of life she was, that she instantly turned into a crystal cave with 2 hot streams by her side, exact same places where the coals were. And her people and land never were frozen again.